a lot of people, one, act like they have never been around violence in their lives. If you're white saying this, I know at least two of your cousins fought with somebody at a store because they had to put on a mask. So you know people who get violent regularly. It is a thing that happens. So pretending it was like the most shocking thing you've ever seen in the world was really something. Welcome to Keep It, Cricket Media's show about pop culture and politics and what happens when they smack into each other at an alarming speed. I'm your host, Ira Madison III, a television writer and Fall Out Boy fan.
I'm Louis Fertel. I'm a TV writer and Jane Fonda historian.
And I'm Aida Osman. I'm a TV writer and alleged comedian.
Let's get into it. All right, we are back with an all-new episode of Keep It. I'm Ira Madison III.
I'm one-time Oscars fan, Louis Fertel. I am now an Oscars survivor, Louis Fertel.
Well, let me tell you something about the Oscars. This year was the first Black Oscars in a lot of ways. So we had to, of course, bring Damon Young on the show to guest co-host with us. Hi, David.
And you know, I was scheduled to co-host before the Oscars. All of a sudden turned into the Source Awards. So again, this is very advantageous, very serendipitous that that the schedules worked out where I'm here 2 days after the slap heard around the world.
See, that is an appropriate descriptor, by the way. The calling it the Source Awards. I would say that the immediate way to tell if white people were racist online, if they were writing, this felt like the BET Awards. And I'm like, the BET Awards don't have fighting at them. The Source Awards, however, plenty of fights.
Yeah. And also, we can make that joke. Like, there's so, and that's one of the beauties of being Black in America and also consuming a thing like this is that there's just a wider range of jokes that we are able to tell. And this is why I'm writing a book about this, about why Black American humor is the best American humor, is because we just have more material. And we're also allowed to access all of the material, right? So
another book already? Slow down, David.
I mean, it's been
R.L. Stein over here.
It's been 3 years. It's been 3 years. You see this exposed piping in the background. I gotta pay for that somehow. So I gotta keep churning. I gotta keep churning them out.
Now, is anybody concerned with the phraseology, the slap heard around the world, that we are erasing Stephen and Irene from the real world Seattle?
That's a good question, because that was a serious slap that
and also a more traditional slap in that, like a quote unquote bitch slap, whereas what actually, obviously we'll get into this in a second, is what the whole episode will obviously end up being about, but what Will Smith did, it is a slap, but the impact was more than a slap. So it's almost like we need to coin something new for whatever it was.
Yeah, this is almost like a hyper slap.
Yes.
Because it and again there's also, and again, just going back to like even jokes and permissions and all of the weird nebulous politics that exists around that, I think that when you have male on male violence like that, there is a wider range of things to talk about, or there's a wider range of things to joke about.
Yeah,
so,
this is funnier
yes.
than the real world slap, because it was a Black man slapping a woman. White woman? Is she white?
Yes,
I think she's
right.
White and annoying. For just to get that out of the way, she was annoying back then. She's less annoying now. I will say that the real world slap offered a lot more twists and turns, because the whole slap was because she kept referring to him as gay.
Right.
And he was like, I'm not gay. Then he slapped her. And then, 20 years later, when like the big real world reunion aired with all of the cities on MTV, he was there with his partner, because of course he was gay. And she was right.
Maybe, I think sometimes people, they say, I'm going to slap the gay out of you. Maybe the gay was slapped into him when he did that. Like, I don't know.
It's like a reverse exorcism. Now you're filled with the gay
Yeah.
spirit.
Now
Yes,
you're
right.
filled with the gay after you commit the act of violence. So
Well, we thought maybe after weeks of discussing the Oscars we could move on now that they're over, but then Will Smith slapped that possibility away.
Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
And I want to first bring up two things addressed to Lewis.
Okay.
One, maybe this is your fault.
Okay.
Because a friend of mine, my friend Tom, was sending me a text about how he was catching up on last week's Keep It. And he said when we were discussing our picks for who was going to win, you said,
I'm going with Andrew Garfield because I think when you see all 5 of the choices, you're like, who slapped? Whoa. I don't claim psychic abilities, but I'm happy to own it now.
You manifested. You manifested the slap.
You manifested it. And 2, Lewis, have you ever been slapped before?
Good question. Well, let me tell you something. About 10 years ago, I did a little bit with my only very close friends where if they said something even remotely, quote unquote, offensive to me, I would jokingly slap them. I remember our friend Tony said that Meryl Streep had been nominated for She-Devil. Well, guess what came out? My hand. And so that was like a bit I did for a second. And guess what? That bit is also, people get over it really quickly. So I moved on from it.
I vaguely remember this bit.
Yeah.
I do remember I was never slapped.
No, that's true. You weren't. No, you know what, Ira? I don't know that I've been slapped. I don't think so.
No one slapped you in retaliation to your bit?
Oh, you are correct. My friend Morgan Polikoff did because he said I was from Joliet, Illinois. Not true. I'm from Lamont, and I got a little palm happy. Shall we say. Yeah.
Okay.
And see, Damon, that is the difference between the races. You know, I don't playfully slap my friends because I would have gotten knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, what's your name from the world say? I don't wrestle, I beat bitches up, and that's
Coral.
Coral.
Oh.
I don't.
When Mike wanted to
I don't
wrestle
fight,
with
I
her,
haven't been in an actual fight since I was like 13 years old, right? Like an actual fist fight. Now I've been in basketball related scuffles and elbows thrown and shit talk, but actual like we're squaring up, we're fighting. That hasn't happened in a long time I feel like most people exist on opposite ends of the fighting spectrum where like either you've been in 29 fights since you were a kid and you just fought in the Costco's parking lot like last weekend, or you've been in 0. Like no one has been in like 3 fights. So yeah, I mean the slapping is just not a thing that is a part of my life. I don't play slap. I don't get play slapped. I did get a drink thrown very viciously in my direction, not like thrown, but like the drink was like shoved into my chest by someone who was unhappy with a decision that I made. But in terms of actual, a hand hitting my face, an open hand hitting my face, that it's been, I'd have to go back to like my mom maybe hitting me. And my mom didn't hit me frequently, but she did once when I was like 11. All right. And that's, yeah.
Getting a drink pushed on you, though, that's an appropriation of the television series Smash Culture, which we can unpack that later. Specifically, what's Eileen Rand, Angelica Houston's character. Yes.
I would say the same. Fighting used to be a part of my life in the sense that I went to public school in Milwaukee. And so I definitely saw, like you would step onto the playground and there'd be morning fights, So I am used to it in that respect. But I don't think I've been in a fight since I was younger. I mean, most arguments that I've been in have stayed, sort of verbal in my adult life. Mostly because, and this is a thing that the Will Smith slap brought up on Twitter, which was fair. A lot of people, act like they have never been around violence in their lives. Which, you know, if you're white saying this, I know at least two of your cousins fought with somebody at a store because they had to put on a mask. So you know people who get violent regularly. You've seen white people be violent on planes. You've seen white dads get like kicked out of their kids' sports games. Like it is a thing that happens. So pretending it was like the most shocking thing you've ever seen in the world was really something. But I think also people in this Twitter age tweet such reckless things at each other or about people, and there isn't that threat of violence, and so that's why it was sort of shocking to them. Like I've run into people, Lewis, you know, at like Akbar, who might have like tweeted something crazy at me, you know? There's no expectation on their part, though, that I'm going to hit them in the face because they did that, even though they probably deserve it. Well, and if you did that, they would never do it again.
Well, I will say, I think what is shocking about this slap, other than, I mean, nobody expected to see it. I'm certain Nicole Kidman did not expect to be 5 feet from a slap, for example. To me, what was surprising was you only realized in retrospect it happened. Because to me, the crazy thing about it was he was out of his chair so fast. It was like Robin Williams doing a bit at the Oscars, where you're like, oh, this person's animated and they're like friends. Like obviously, Will Smith and Chris Rock know each other. So to only realize afterwards that it had happened while Will Smith was doing the yelling, that to me is the shocking thing. Because you can see it even registering on, I think, Lupita Nyong'o's face, who
she thought it was a joke.
I think she thinks it's a joke. Yeah, that's what people.
And then her face slowly starts to go to, oh, yeah. I like when things started cutting out. I had no idea what was really happening, and then the anger in his voice when he said,
"Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth,"
is when I knew it was real.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out that I immediately knew that this was personal from Jada's face at the G.I. Jane joke, which was one, ad-libbed. It's been proven that it felt ad-libbed anyway, but it's been proven it was ad-libbed. But two, if we go back to 2016, right. And this is my actual main problem with the whole fight in general, and why I'm actually angrier at Chris Rock in this situation is in 2016 when he hosted the Oscars, that was when Jada and Will were sitting out the Oscars, the concussion year for the Oscars So White campaign, and he was making jokes online about Jada staying at home,
protesting. I'm like, is she on a TV show? Jada's gonna boycott the Oscars. Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited.
Making jokes about a black woman not being invited to the Oscars in a room full of white people who then laughed about it. People who were like her peers, people who were Will's peers. And I found that embarrassing on his part and rude that he would do that to her. Full disclosure, I wrote an article about that for MTV News in 2016, and then Jada did send me flowers.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
She did.
Yeah, it was it was a lazy, hacky joke, right?
Yeah,
and also not just the fact that he has this ad-lib joke about Jada Pinkett Smith. I mean, okay, so you're Chris Rock. You're in this. You're hosting. You're one of the presenters for the Oscars. There are 4,000 people there. I don't know how many people are in the theater. Jada Pinkett Smith is probably the 117th most famous person there. Right. Now she is more black people famous than she is mainstream famous. She has a name, right? And so when you are hosting a thing like that, if you're gonna talk shit about people, you go at the super duper stars. You know what I mean? You don't just And I feel like that is the part that I haven't seen discussed that much. It's like, the other people who Amy Schumer and who else? It was Wanda Sykes and
Regina Hall.
Regina Hall were going at were like Sandra Bullock, okay, Harvey Bardem, people who are nominated, people who are superstars, right? And again, I think that Chris saw Jada. It was an easy, hacky, lazy joke to make. You know what I mean? And I think that, just getting back to our reaction to that. And I had a really awkward experience of witnessing it because I was watching the Oscars live, but I had put it on pause for something. My wife and I were talking about something. We just put it on pause. So we were about 2 minutes behind. And so I'm watching Chris Rock start his monologue, or about to start his monologue. And people are texting me like, "What the fuck just that?" Like my phone felt like a Cheesecake Factory buzzer when you're ready, right? And then I'm like, "Holy shit, something is about to happen," right? And then I see the slap, and I think that one of the things that made it so jarring is that Chris Rock's reaction, because. Even when we slow it down and we watch like the Zapruder, Chinese films of it right now, his expression doesn't change until like the millisecond before he is slapped. There's no recognition of, oh, this 6'3", 220-pound man is approaching me about to do violence. Like there's none of that in him. It's almost like he is still he thinks it's a bit. And I think we took his cue from that and was like, okay, this must be, oh, wait, what? And then to Chris Rock's credit, this dude has the strongest chin. Okay? Like I want to have a love as strong as Chris Rock's chin. Because again,
how has he not played Batman? Truly, the chin that was like it took so much.
Yeah, he got hit very hard. And he took a step back and then went right back into doing his job. He didn't even say ow. He didn't touch his face. He didn't do anything like that. He just went right back.
He was like, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me.
He did not register any pain. He went into just pure shock, and then I think was waiting for teleprompter feed to just get to the award, which finally happened. And then he delivered the best documentary thing.
Someone like him with a mouth like his and his size is used to being slapped. And so he reacted like someone like, this is happening again.
I know. I will say that I will say that largely my anger goes back to, I mean, people kept sharing that clip after this that we talked about before on the show where Chris Rock is talking about the N-word with Jerry Seinfeld and Ricky Gervais and Louis C.K. and is like just like laughing while the awful people in the clip say the N-word, and Jerry Seinfeld's just sort of like,
well, you found the humor of it.
Yeah,
I haven't found it.
Right.
Nor do I seek it.
Right.
I mean, so
find a way. It's just that he and Will are sort of like rich black people from the same coin, they're like going towards this big success in these white fields, and it's sort of like changed how they interact with each other and where their egos were coming from. Because you were right, picking on Jada, who was like the 117th most famous person in that room right then,
and I wasn't
wild.
Saying that. And I want to say real quick, I wasn't saying that to shade Jada Pinkett Smith.
No, I get that.
She's a huge fan, but in that room, in that
yes, in that room, it was wild to do that. I just think that compounded with how he dogged her out in front of white people in 2016. It was just sort of like enough is enough, and him like being like, Jada, I love you at the beginning of it was him trying to soften the blow of the joke, but I get from their perspective, why do you have to keep dragging us in front of these white people when your job is to actually be here and drag the white people?
If he wanted us on his side, or specifically if he wanted me on his side to start that bit, he should not have referred to Penelope Cruz simply as Javier Bardem's wife. Already that set me off on you can't even say Penelope Cruz's name? Like,
right.
Grim. And then secondly, by the time he gets to Jada Pinkett Smith, here's the as we discussed, whatever he said was probably ad-libbed, but like, I feel like the minute he directs his attention that way, Jada Pinkett is already bracing herself for, here comes a dismissive joke that's probably looks-based. And I think in hearing people talk about how she didn't react, I don't know, properly to the joke or didn't react with a smile, it's like, one, you do not have to find every joke funny. I actually find it pretty radical to just sit there and be like, I'm not going to even give you a smile. But second of all, it's like, I think there's such a thing as being cliche to the point of nauseating. Like, oh, a woman doesn't have hair, and what like cultural references do we have for that? Just G.I. Jane and Sinead O'Connor, and they're both ancient references, and you made one of them, and you're deemed a comedic genius most of the time, and now we're doing that again while you make the most cliched possible joke.
G.I. Jane, he could have, like, the nigga couldn't have made a Black Panther joke. Right. She looks like a Okoye.
Yeah.
So, come on.
Yeah, though, and then of course, like Will Smith, like sprung into action once he saw the look on Jada Pinkett's face, and that again was confusing for the audience because we didn't see that moment of recognition either. Mm-hmm. So it was only a minute or so later that we realized what really happened. But like, there's just something about the dismissiveness of that kind of looks-based joke where I'm happy we had a moment to realize actually that was worse than you thought it was. You know, I think it's a joke that would have just passed with like a couple of giggles from somewhere in the crowd otherwise, but I sort of like that there was a reckoning that sucked even more than the average person would say it did.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, like Ira was saying, it's the context, you know, where, you know, he had done this before. He had done this in front of, you know, in this, you know, extremely like ultra Vanta white space before. Is Vanta white? I know Vanta black is the thing. Is Vanta white a thing? Is that an actual color? I know Vanta black is. I just invented the color Vanta white.
I mean, Vanna White is a person.
Well, and there is Vanna White, but Vanta. I'm wondering if Vanta White is an actual substance that exists.
Oh, I have no idea.
It is going forward. It is now. And so you have all of that, and plus, you know, Will feeling, you know, this was like the third or fourth joke about them that night, and I'm sure they're on Twitter, they're on IG the same way we all are, and you know, all the jokes about entanglement and August and their relationship and all the memes of his face, and then he has the whole thing with his weight loss journey that was kind of awkward, and then that piece that Wesley Lowery wrote for GQ where you know it was really, you know, revealing and some things you know, maybe some things that were somewhat unflattering too. So you have all of this, right? All of this building up, and then he just tells this throwaway joke, and yeah, I mean, I don't think he should have did that, but I get it. I get why he did. Like I
kept thinking about like if Wendy Williams was still on the air or something. Like Wendy Williams would have. I think Wendy would have agreed with the hit and been like, "Come on, Will, you should have done that outside." You know what? Like the slap should have came. The slap should have actually came before they went into Beyonce and Jay-Z's party, not on stage. That I still think a slap was. I still think a slap was owed. To be honest, I just don't think he should have done it there. Mostly because now we still have to endure these dumbass conversations about, you know, like respectability politics, and like you got friends like black people talking about black on black crime, light skinned black people who I know, and I need to block from my phone. And you know, it's all very exhausting, but it does make sense in the narrative that we were talking about when we first talked about Will's memoir on the show, Lewis. You know, like he talked about how, you know, like he felt paralyzed by like his mom's abuse and like he wanted to kill his dad. And I'm just like, a man, like if this were a film, we would have seen this moment coming. You know, it's almost like the Joker. You know, it's like he's going to snap at a certain point and kill someone in defense of a woman, you know, because he could have killed Chris Rock, as Judd Apatow said.
And I guess my response to that too is, you know, was it about defending Jada's honor, or was it about his own ego being bruised?
It was about his ego.
You know,
it was definitely his
ego.
Because
it didn't, you know, when you, like, as you were alluding to, you know,
no.
He had his big speech about how he's a protector and how he, you know, that's why he's put on earth to do. But now, before it was just jokes that they got. Now they're getting scrutinized, microscope, looking at the relationship, people speculated about whether he's actually physically abusive to her.
Can we talk about how they filmed him during that speech? It was like something out of Nightcrawler, the close-up they chose. Like, I was like fully underneath him, like going up. It was like breaking local news or something. It was very confrontationally filmed in a way that, like, say, Jessica Chastain was not filmed.
Yeah.
I saw nostril hair. I definitely saw nostril hair.
We saw snot. We saw tears. It was... Anyway, yeah, it's wild that it took this long for people to start talking about misogyny and Chris Rock in the same conversation, but now women online are doing it. And, you know, shout out to the alopecia community because, you know, they are rising up as well this week.
Also, I was going to say about the alopecia thing, people keep saying, well, Chris Rock clearly didn't know she had a medical condition. And my response to that, or I think the response to that is, well, now he does. You know? Like, what's the correct? Like, oh, he should have been briefed about that, like by gently by Will Smith. It's like, not really. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that was the Will Smith portion of the Oscars. Well, we're back.
I truly thought we were going to come out of that. I truly thought we were going to come out of that Oscars being like, oh, that great speech Troy Kotzer made, or like Yunya Jung introducing him. It's like, now that is so beyond trivia. No one remembers that. It's so shocking how it wiped the entire preceding 2.5 hours away. I've never seen anything in an award show like that before. Yeah.
It was so sweet, by the way, how she like signed Troy's name before he won.
Or I think she said love, maybe, or maybe she said Troy. Yeah.
I can't read sign language.
I noticed. Yeah.
I have to give myself some recognition really quickly too, because I watched this live. I saw the Moonlight La La Land thing live. I saw the Janet Super Bowl live. And I saw the Malice at the Palace, you know, in the Detroit Pistons and the Indiana Pacers got to the fight with the crowd. I was watching that game live. And so there can't be more than 700 people on Earth who could say that they were watching all four of those things exactly when it happened. So again, I have to acknowledge myself.
Oh, good.
And give
congrats
myself
to you.
Kennedy Center honors forthcoming.
For that. Yes. I just had to say that.
Another brief moment that happened at the Oscars, which was the 30th anniversary of White Men Can't Jump, which is an appropriate anniversary to celebrate because it's 30 years, even though it was weird having the Oscars celebrate White Men Can't Jump during the ceremony, a film that I'm positive was ignored when it came out 30 years ago by the Academy.
Yeah, and it's like to kind of overcorrect, they celebrated the 28th anniversary of Pulp Fiction, and if someone misses your 28th birthday, right, it's not a big deal. Like, in fact, if one of my friends missed my 28th birthday and it's like, you know what, I had some engagement, I couldn't show up. I'm like, you know what, show up for my 30th, right? Because that's the number that matters. 28 and all these fucking nebulous ass off-brand numbers that are celebrated as anniversaries, they don't matter. Like, no one gives a shit about the 28th anniversary, the 17th anniversary, the 6th anniversary. You keep it 1st, 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th, just factors of 5 going forward. After number 1, you just go by factors of 5 going forward. Because again, these off-year, off-brand anniversaries just annoy the shit out of me. And I just had to say that.
Also, I think the thing is, everyone has a birthday every single year. So it's to quote unquote celebrate a random number is to celebrate nothing. Simply the way time works. And if they had just said, oh, we're reuniting the cast of Pulp Fiction, that would have been fine. But instead, they put this number in front of it, which cheapened the fact that they were there. Even like 15 years for Juno, it was cool to see Elliot Page, but also it's like you couldn't get Allison Janney in there. You know, I'm texting Diablo Cody. I'm like, look, they just said your name, and then she like sprung into action. She's like, what? Yeah.
It was extra weird for me to bring the Juno cast out for celebrating Juno's screenplay win. I was like, the Oscars really does not give a fuck about screenwriters, do they? I was expecting Diablo to walk out.
Right.
And she's famous enough as a writer in her own right that she could have walked out on stage with them and people would have clapped for her.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we got 11'4" Jennifer Garner lording over the cast of Juno. I didn't realize that J.K. Simmons was apparently like 4'8".
Yeah. And
Big
you know what?
personality.
Elliot Page is looking good. Elliot Page has got a chin, by the way. That's a good jawline.
Has a
Now you're fixated.
very
Yeah.
strong, very Batman, very Wayne
Yes.
jawline.
Yes.
Happening there.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's get that twist. Okay. Let's get that Batman.
I mean, there's an opening for Rob. There's an opening for Robin.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Is there a Rob? I haven't seen the Batman yet, but is there a Robin there yet?
No, there's not one in this one.
Okay.
No.
There's boom. There we go. We just casted Robin in the next Batman.
But by the way, we have not said this yet. I thought Amy, Regina, and Wanda were all great. And I was surprised at the amount of people who said things like, oh, the ceremony was long or some sketches went too long. That's how the Oscars are. There's going to be sketches that go too long. It's airing live on the air. They can't just shut things down immediately. I thought Regina was hilariously maniacal. And I saw a number of people tweeting things like, well, it wasn't that classy, the things she was doing. They made her seem like a maniac. Have you seen a single Regina Hall comedy? The woman is batshit.
Lord, I'm having a heart attack. Damn, this is some scurry shit. Oh, I am scared.
It's not normal what she does on screen. The fact that she gave us even a slightly watered down version of what she's capable of is a lot. Yeah.
20, 30 years from now, when we look back on like this era of comedy, and I don't feel like Regina Hall gets her same due as like Amy Schumer or Melissa McCarthy. But if you just look at the comedies that she's led, right? And I think Girls Trip, financially was one of the most successful comedies ever, right? Mm-hmm. And she was a star of that. She was the protagonist. Everyone else were her supporting characters. And again, she's been in a lot of other things where she's been the star and also carried a show on Showtime too. But I don't think she gets that sort of recognition culturally for being on that level.
Right. She doesn't. And I will actually say a brief keep it to whatever was going on in that skit where she brought up the men that she was allegedly attracted to on stage, and it included Tyler Perry. I'm like, did he hear about the sketch and ask to be included? Because I'm pretty sure Regina did not pick him.
That sketch would have been disastrous with most people. Her commitment level was so good. She changing the inflections of her voice. It was SNL level. It was great.
And then the commitment when Jason Momoa and Josh Brolin came on to present, and she finished the skit by patting them down, and they leaned into it. I thought that was fucking hysterical. Damon, thank you so much for being here with us today. Everyone should go and listen to Stuck with Damon Young on Spotify. It is a Crooked and Gimlet joint, and it's great.